Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. It's Christmas time! Time once again for the season of joy, merriment, brotherhood, generosity, and love. Naturally, we're starting the season off with a comic about a guy who shoots demons with a boomstick. In my reviews of the Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash comics, I didn't really get much of a chance to talk about what the Evil Dead movies meant to me personally and my own history with them. As many are aware, Camelot is currently my favorite movie, but for the longest time as a teenager, Evil Dead 2 filled that slot. I got lucky and saw Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness in a big marathon in a theater as a kid, with a great crowd and loved them. Evil Dead 2 especially. The thing was, as a kid, while I loved horror movies, it always bugged me that so often people would run away from monsters instead of trying to fight them. See also my heretical love of Scrappy-Doo. As such, seeing Ashley Williams endure the loss of his girlfriend, having to cut off his own hand, almost lose his mind, and just deal with so much crap, finally just say, screw it, I'm attaching a chainsaw to my arm and shoving a sawed-off shotgun right into hell's face, well, it was something magical to me. Believe it or not, I still haven't actually seen Ash vs. Evil Dead, just another in a long list of shows I need to catch up on, but the original movies are still so damn good, and fortunately, Evil Dead is not lacking for comics for me to review. Some of them crossovers with horror or fantasy stuff, even with Marvel Zombies, while others are just ongoing series or miniseries. It's another contender for comics for me to cover during Halloween. Today's review comes to us from Space Goat Publishing, which, from what I've heard, apparently had a pretty good track record of Evil Dead 2 comics. And yes, apparently the license was specifically for Evil Dead 2, and not just like the franchise overall, which is so weird to me. It'd be like if DC was naming every comic after a sequel movie. Like suddenly it's Superman 3 at Earth's End, or All-Star Dark Knight Rises and Robin. But the company ain't making them anymore, mostly because the company has gone under thanks to a big mistake they made with the franchise. Not creatively, but rather stealing money. Yeah, in 2016, Space Goat Productions launched Kickstarters for board games, one for Evil Dead 2 and one for The Terminator, which they also held the license for. The Kickstarters were successful, with the Evil Dead 2 one raising $700,000 against a $70,000 goal. All the stretch goals were unlocked, and then updates started becoming more sporadic on them, not made any better by the company in 2018, trying to raise another crowdfunding campaign for equity in the company. Between the two Kickstarters, they almost raised $1 million. And now they were asking for people to invest in their company after not producing the things that were promised in the almost 2 years since they got funded. Naturally, the equity crowdfunding failed miserably, and things did not go well from there. Rumors abound of the company embezzling the funds from their Evil Dead 2 Kickstarter into the Terminator game, as well as some of their own original projects. But of course, regardless of the facts of it, I was not able to find much more. Further rumors suggest that they were trying to delete evidence of the company's own existence and information about them from the web. They never delivered on the games. And look, as someone who has done their own crowdfunding campaign before, I know there are unexpected problems and delays and costs, but you've got to deliver what you promised, especially when you ended up getting 10 times what you were asking for. From what I can tell, the company is either bankrupt and gone, or at the very least has changed hands to different owners that are hoping to actually salvage the company. A different, but using the same assets, version of the Evil Dead 2 board game was successfully crowdfunded via Jasco Games a couple months ago, which got less money, but at the time of this video's release, seems to be actually going fine, and has been posting updates on their progress, with the latest being from about a week ago. Whether or not this will implode too is unknown, but we're here to talk about comic books. And here's something weird for this one, probably part of that rumored purge of information about the company. While the comic was released as a one-shot in its physical form, for some reason, the scans that I got split the normal length comic into 2 parts. I don't know, maybe they originally released this in a serialized form on their site or something, like The Thing, the Northman Nightmare comic. But what makes it even weirder is that instead of just having like 2 parts of 10 pages or whatever, they split the pages in half to try to make both parts 20 pages long. There are no splash pages or 2-page spreads or anything. There's always a dividing line for top panels and bottom panels. It's just weird and unnecessary. So let's dig into Evil Dead 2, A Merry Deadite Xmas, and see how groovy this one-shot in 2 parts is.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where Yuletide candles burn. Linkara's gonna give you all a present you've not earned. Not Mensch, you're not the brightest. Frank Miller, you're off the nice list. If you're a comic writer who misuses a license, your gift will be returned. Digging through the shelves for the kind of comic books that would turn Santa's elves into common crooks. He reads them and he weeps while down the chimney creeps. Pajamas with a Marvel trade to watch him when he sleeps. Linkara, he built a snowman, now it has a hole. Linkara, 8 maids a milking and a young blood troll. Linkara, only one Dickens homage away from going chestnuts. Linkara, this Christmas comic sucks.
The cover's okay, featuring Ash covered in blood and facing down a horde of Deadites. As a refresher to those not familiar with the franchise, a Deadite is kind of like a zombie, but a bit more like someone possessed. They tend to be the already dead, but they have intelligence and just want to kill you rather than eat you. And in the early days, when you killed them, they turned into creamed corn. Don't you just already feel the Christmas spirit? Speaking of, the only Christmassy stuff on the cover is the comic store in the background. Apparently it was one of those kinds that retailers could order with their store name on it, as well as Ash's trademark Oldsmobile on the roof. Not sure how the hell that got there, but hey, wreaths and candy canes and a Deadite and a Santa hat. Christmas! Oh, and something you might notice right away is that Ash has both of his hands. So something I've got to applaud Space Goat's continuity for is that they went in a very different direction from most other Evil Dead comics. See, this is technically a clone of Ash Williams. Or rather, if you're a Doctor Who fan, this is Meta-Crisis Ash. From what I've read, in the Evil Dead 2 Beyond Dead by Dawn miniseries, the character Annie Nobe, from the Evil Dead 2 movie, got sent to Hell along with the cabin. In order to escape Hell, she used pages from the Necronomicon to grow a new Ash from his dismembered hand, while the real Ash was sucked back in time for Army of Darkness. The two had a series of adventures after that, including fighting Hitler! And Ash punching Hitler is a Christmas gift I did not realize I needed. And thus, that's why we open with Ash and Annie walking down a street during Christmas time. It's the most wonderful time of the year, but maybe not for Annie Nobe. Well, yeah, it can't be that wonderful for her, considering it's like 30 degrees outside, and she's wearing a short-sleeved shirt and denim shorts. I can't believe tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and you're carrying a shotgun on your back. What the hell? Already? With all the sending demons back to the pits of fire and whatnot, the holidays really crept up on me this year. I didn't get the forwarding addresses of those demons to send Christmas cards to. Kinda weird you're spending it with a guy cloned from a hand instead of your family. Oh, right, your parents are in hell. Your ex-boyfriend, too. On the plus side, less gifts to worry about. Give me some sugar, baby. You're making the pissed off face again. This is related to that sensitivity thing we talked about, isn't it? And Ash's gift can be a kick in the crotch. Later, at a hotel, Ash is brushing his teeth and talking to himself. Annie's still bummed about her parents. Probably should stop bringing that up. Or at the very least, only during Easter. Probably not Christmas time conversation. And now, a representation of Ash's halitosis. Actually, it's a ghost, and I guess this must be a regular thing for him, because he has no reaction to a ghost contacting him other than mild annoyance. I'm sorry, my timing is always the worst. It's just that I really need help from a professional expert like you, Ash. I can't find the price on this tray I found in the housewares department, and I knew only you could help. He says his name was Robbie Dawes, and until recently was working at a Christmas year-round amusement park, and he just happened to find a copy of the Necronomicon in the stockroom. What's weird is that it was indistinguishable from the employee handbook. He said that before his soul was pulled into eternal torment, he overheard the plans of the evil spirits escaping the book. They're gonna use that theme park to create peace on Earth by killing everyone on it!
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
Please don't let that happen because I was so stupid. Please! Groovy. What the hell is groovy about someone tragically dying after unleashing hellish creatures that will kill everyone on Earth? Later, Annie and Ash have arrived at the park. Santa's secret snowy garden. This is the place where Santa recovered from his spinal injury thanks to his cousin and a good-natured maid. Someone should have put a little more thought into that name. I mean, how can it be a secret if any of us can walk into it? It's like accidentally sexy, but in a bad way. Ash. It makes me think about Santa's pubes is what I'm trying to say. Well, thankfully, you're the only one thinking that, Ash. Yeesh. The place seems unusually deserted for a Saturday, so Ash goes to ask a worker about it. We will consume your soul and drown you in the lake of fire! That's not a Deadite, it's just a regular employee who has to work during the holidays. Ash shoots its head off. Right out of the gate, huh? The service in this park is gonna be very disappointing. I know, right? There isn't even a Dippin' Dots stand. They hear what sounds like a crying child at the bumper cars, but they just find a doll. False alarm, it's a chewy Charlotte doll. Little girls used to get their hair caught in these things. Why were they feeding their hair to it? Unfortunately, the doll is possessed. Your mama got her hair caught in a chewy Charlotte doll, but it wasn't the hair on her head! Why was she feeding her leg hair to it? Hellish bumper cars, driven by what I presume to be giant versions of the Ginger Dead Man, soon race at our heroes, but they're stopped by some axes and other weapons slicing them apart, also revealing the ecto-cooler that serves as their blood. The ones responsible for saving them are actually these two kids. Well, thank God these small children were here to save our heroes. I admit, cool subversion of expectations, and it works well for the digital copy to end there for its first part. The second part's cover is not actually a cover. It's just a panel from later on, cropped and blown up to cover size. Ash is uncertain if these are real kids given their history with being fooled, though they did just slice apart the giant gingerbread men. Seems like they could have just let them get killed if they were evil. Still, Ash gives them a test. Quick, what's the fastest way to remove a parental block from the internet? Download a keylogger and use it to track their override password, then check the text logs when they're not home. Duh! Well done. I also would have accepted blackmail. Or, given their proficiency with weapons, threatening them probably could have worked. They explain that their uncle brought them here originally, but he fled when the Deadites took over. Annie wants to get the kids to safety before they proceed, so they try to find a quick exit. The little girl thinks there might be one through a nearby snack bar, where Ash partakes of some fries. That is so unsanitary. I know, right? Those fries have got to be ice cold. Ugh, cold fries are the worst. Deadites possess some display models of candies that approach our heroes. The candies are coming, and they look super pissed. I would be too. Ash preferred eating the cold fries to all this delicious candy? What an ass! Also, I don't think evil grins are usually a sign of someone pissed off. But maybe that's just a thing with Deadites. When you're attacked by food, you need the right tool for the job. And why are you planning on attacking a candy cane with a fork, Ash? Is that how you usually eat them? Step back or get sporked. That is clearly a fork and not a spork. They quickly kill the candy, but are soon attacked by some kind of living Christmas tree that launches out ornaments at them. Once we've stopped you, we can take over the world. Robbie, why do you think that's the guy who brought you in on this? The tree looks and sounds nothing like him. Was that her supposed to be a vocal quirk to identify him? Because he never did that before. He tells the others that indeed Robbie Dawes set them up, working with the dead the whole time. Didn't Robbie tell you he's really into horror movies? Something like that. I wasn't paying attention. Well, that explains why you think the possessed tree was him. Annie says she's been seeing references to Christmas horror movies all over the park. We even see Jack Frost in this panel. And in almost all of those movies, there's only one big bad: Santa Claus. Except in all the references I noticed. Jack Frost, Ginger Dead Man, what I think was demonic toys, and I don't know about the elf specifically, but like none of those have Santa as the main villain. They head to Santa's workshop, where they're greeted by Robbie's ghost. What took you guys so long? Sorry, they had to deal with this other reference to a Christmas horror movie in their way.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
Robbie unleashes the cover at them, aka a bunch of possessed toys, but the four make quick work of the giant teddy bear, evil hobby horses, and army of elves. Annie quotes from the Necronomicon to dispel Robbie and stabs him with a Kandarian dagger, quickly ending the threat and, one panel and no fanfare. And so our comic ends with Annie and the little girl singing Silent Night as they all stand in the gooey remains of their enemies. How's this for a warm and fuzzy memory, kids? Kinda gets you right here. I wish every day could be just like Christmas. Full of green ooze and singing carols over the bodies of the dead while invoking ancient rituals to exorcise spirits. Truly the reason for the season. This comic is not that great. There's nothing offensively terrible about it, but it's just not that good. The action is fine, but one thing that's really worked well for Ash in the movies is his one-liners and quips. While it was Army of Darkness that pushed that idea to the limit, there's just nothing that memorable from him here. I'll give it credit that it didn't just repeat the same jokes from the movies that a lot of the comics do, especially the Klaatu Verata Nikto reference that a lot do for the Necronomicon. Its only repetition of groovy is used at a weird point and feels like it was only put there because they had nowhere else to and it's just obligatory. While the overall appearance evokes Christmas, I'm still confused by their wardrobe choices, which seem like they weren't allowed to put them in anything but the clothes they wore in Evil Dead 2. The plot is nothing special, and while we get a fraction of character development at the beginning with Annie in relation to her dead family, well, there's nothing much else there, and Ash's complete dickish behavior about it doesn't paint a good picture of a guy who was otherwise supposed to be mostly a decent dude, just kind of rude and abrasive to people who thought themselves above him. The artwork is fine for the story, but it feels like the book didn't deliver on some of the writing, like the tree that was supposed to be Robbie, or the fork that was evidently supposed to be a spork. It's like the artist wasn't paying close enough attention to what was happening. It's not a terrible comic, but it just doesn't feel like anything special. Next time, we see if we can make a Decepticon's heart grow 3 sizes for the holiday. When you're attacked by food, you need the right tool for the job. And you certainly are the right tool for the job, Ash. Hello, my friends. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with others. And if you get a chance, maybe check out my Patreon.